Consolee Nishimwe, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a
Yeah,
pleasure
I'm
joining
very
you.
happy to have you again. And always, as we talk, there is a wisdom around.
Oh, thank you. Same way as you as well.
Yeah. How is New York?
New York is well, so it's hot, like any other place. It's summer, so I'm having a great time. So
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, so for those who are, seeing us or listening to us today, we are discussing with Consolee about, um, the gender and the genocide against Tutsi in which happened in Rwanda in 1994. We are going to explore more about the challenge or the issue that women faced during the genocide. Of course, genocide, many of them faced killings, but those who survived, told the story, and that story was unique, and it was unique with cruelty, specifically for women. What was that? What happened? So we are discussing with Consolee Nishimwe a book which is called Tested to their limit. She's going to refer to that to tell us more about her work. She's an activist who's trying to champion the voice of those women who faced, most specifically, sexual violence, sexual assault. So, concerning Ishimwe, before we dive into the topic, would you like to, to add more about your introduction, the work you're doing, and possibly how it does it connected to the today's topic?
mm, thank you again so much for bringing me to have this conversation around this topic, which is very near to me. Especially you actually said well. So I've written my memoir about my experience of what happened to me during the genocide against the Tutsi. And because of that, also what I've written, I've also started also around that time to start speaking out, being a voice for so many who cannot speak for themselves, especially that as a young woman at that time, I went through um, rape, and like many others, I've been living with the consequences because of what happened to me. So I realized that it's my duty to be a voice, since many of them are not strong enough yet to speak about what they've been through. So, and I think this conversation is very important. And I thank you also for all you're doing. You're actually doing the same thing. So it's important for all of us to speak out and just, make sure this issue is heard, and hopefully that we can find as many survivors to also speak out and make sure that it's not forgotten. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. During the during the field research we are doing on genocide memorials, I met a number of women who shared their story. But until we met Emilienne, who's supporting women in Rwanda,
Mm,
the rape survivors, the women raped during the genocide.
mm,
That's when we understood the silence around the time where they were raped during the genocide, when in their stories they mute that part, and some of them they would become silent. And for you, I was amazed to hear that you wrote that in your book. You talked about it, what you experienced. Would you like to, maybe tell more, talk more about that, your experience before maybe we talk about this silence and what does it mean?
yeah. Thank you for saying that. I remember in my journey of beginning to share my experience, it was very, very hard for me. So it has taken me many years, especially that I was like many of those women. I was thinking, this is something I would never speak about because of how society, forces us to be silent. So and a lot of the people don't even speak about it. You said it's commuted. So even the way it's talked about, it's not enough to be able to give a space for someone who has gone through that to be able to talk about it. So for me personally, it was a courage that I've had. I made a conscious decision to do it on my own and be able to seek help. And seeking help has helped me also to be able to share my story. And help, I mean therapy, because therapy has really made me feel like I should not be ashamed of what happened to me. And it was a gradual journey. But at the same time, one thing that has helped me is to never give up, even though it was hard for me to go through that path, especially in the culture where it's not easy to talk about your body and everything you've been through. And I had to force myself to be vulnerable. And it was not, I would not say that it was very easy, because I just woke up and it was easy to do that. And it was really hard. There were times I felt like, what am I doing? Maybe I should just stop and not, you know, take myself, it's almost like you're stripping yourself out there. So, and I felt like one thing I'm so happy about is just the people that I chose to help me in that journey, people who understood me, people who gave me their time to listen to me. And then I realized this is exactly what others need. They need someone who understands them, who give them a space to be able to share without even any judgment. So for me, when I got to that point where I shared fully what I carry within myself without shame, and I needed also to not leave anything, because the way I described my journey, what happened to me, it's very detailed. So I needed also to hear from that journey also as well. So when I realized how it helped me, I felt like I needed to also be part of helping my fellow survivors as well, who are going to hear me, and be able to support them in my small contribution I can, to be able to help them also, and if any others also helping them to be able to share that story, and also that story to be heard, to not mute, to not, to break the silence. So for me, what I did, I broke my silence, but I want to make sure that silence is broken. So it's not easy, but it's all of us together to continue doing this. And Miriam is doing an incredible job. What she's been doing is incredible. And it's not easy to carry to carry that heavy pain within yourself your whole life. So, and even though it's been 27 years, and a lot of them still struggle. So it's something that you sleep on, and it's not easy. So for me, I feel like it's my duty to do that, and I felt relieved. And really, I'm very open about how it has helped me in my healing journey, and that's why I'm able to even speak out, and it really, really helped me so much, and that's what I wish for everybody else to feel. So,
Thank you very much for sharing, and the amazing part of your story and your life in general is how you share this story, and you still appear as a strong woman. And of course, you are strong. All these things that happen to you, and seeing you sharing this story shows how strong you are.
thank you.
Um uh, you talked about how you wanted to share everything, and
Mhm,
so that people cannot judge.
mhm,
It's you wanted to write the story of what to write the darkness of what happened.
yeah,
So I want to take you back 27 years
mhm,
ago in the right after the genocide.
Right.
What was it to survive a genocide and have faced all these things?
Mhm.
At the time, it was survivors and many people in the community.
Right.
What was the situation? Would you like to describe it?
As you can imagine, like any other survivor, right after the genocide, it was a lot of pain and within yourself. Sometimes you didn't know how to describe what you felt. So for me, as because I was young, I was a teenager. So, and also being that woman who was raped, I had that shame, the pain in my heart that I would not share with anybody yet. So it was a struggle for me, and then I felt every time I walked on the street, I felt like it was almost like written on my forehead or everywhere. So that's how you feel as a woman when you've gone through that. And in a society where also the way people described about every time I used to hear people talking about any woman who has been raped, it's almost like it's like a shame the way they talked about it. It made me feel sad. It made me feel um that how am I going, I didn't want anybody to know what I went through. So it was my time as a teenager, it was painful because I felt like I was carrying something that I didn't know how to talk about it, and it was affecting me every day. I had nightmares like any other survivor. Every time I didn't I was crying and I was inside. I was, like I was in silence like many. So which has taken me many years at that time. So and I remember the only person who knew my pain, it was my mom, and she didn't know how to also to tell me. Of course, the only thing she would say, be strong, my daughter. But we didn't also have a language also to talk about what I was feeling. So it was almost like she was there for me, but we didn't have a language to express what I felt within. So, and the only thing is she was there for me to whenever I needed to cry, but without talking much, about it. So it was it's really painful to carry something you will never be able to share with anyone. And I remember there's a quote I love from Maya Angelou. It's called "There's no greater agony than bearing an untold story within." I love this quote because um, it showed me, actually I understood what it meant. Every time I hear that quote, it really means, it makes me understand what I've done to myself. But coming back to that time when I was a teenager, it was it was a time that I felt every pain in my body every single day, and I didn't know how to express it except that I just cried, I just prayed. Hopefully one day I'll find a way to, to be free within myself. So, and it was not something that I will find a friend or and have a conversation with, because many of them didn't talk about it. So, and it was really a struggle. And then whenever I went to a classroom, and every time I thought maybe one day I would find a teacher who understands me, probably who will read what I felt, but that was not the case. I was treated like anyone else. That's how it was. You will be treated like anyone else if you do well in the classroom or if you don't. So, um, but at the same time, I was yearning that, but I didn't know how to explain it. So I was yearning to find someone who will help me without necessarily, saying a word. So, and I think many of them are probably that's what they need. So someone who will understand it without asking too much, without judging. So helping them in that journey to be able to express it. So for me, it was not an easy journey, but I'm grateful that I've been able, to share about it later on, years later. But it was really a struggle at that time. So.
Oh, thank you very much again to share that. And I'm trying to, to take you back to those times.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, they are very difficult.
Mhm.
But I know you are strong to tell and to share. For people understand, the journey that these women like you girls, at the time you were very young, I was still a teenager. That what was the situation and how, for example, you talked about stigma,
Mhm.
shame associated to those to the time to what happened to you and of course to many other women.
Right.
So do you remember, because you talked about then right after you
Mhm.
shared what happened, do
Mhm.
you remember the first day you shared that uh, to the person who's not your mother? uh,
Mhm.
who do you want to talk about that and what was the experience?
Mhm. Yeah. I remember the first time I shared this heavy, heavy, painful experience to someone who was not my mom. It was it was hard. It was very hard. I remember one time when I was very ill because I was so sick because of, carrying the HIV. And I was forced, actually, to me, it forced me to also face my pain. And I remember the first time I talked to my doctor was the first person that I shared that with. But I remember I had to share in a way that was not easy to share, but at the same time I didn't go in detail. So I didn't go in detail. So because I didn't have the courage to go in detail. So, and even few people in my family that I was able also to tell that time, I found that they already knew. I could tell they already knew already that what happened to me, but they didn't know how to tell me, know how to have a conversation with me about it. So, and thankfully, along the way, I found a therapist because I realized everybody else didn't know how to approach it. Because as soon as I shared that, they were afraid to find, the proper words to tell me and how to talk to me. And even a doctor suggested that I needed a therapist as well. So a therapist was someone actually who allowed me to cry. And I cried in a way that I've never cried before. And she kind of opened the door for me to even go in deep of what happened to my body, describing what my body felt and what happened to my body in the way that I never spoke about before, and to make me feel that I should not be ashamed of talking about it. So, and that's when I realized, at that moment it was not easy, but it was relief. It was like a relief in my heart. And it didn't happen right after talking to that person because it was just it's like opening the wound. So, but at that time when I kept going to that person, it was a way of helping me to understand my pain and talk about it without, feeling shameful. So, and even using the words of what happened, sometimes you can't find the right words to say what happened to you. And even saying rape itself, that word was hard for me to even pronounce that word. So, but when I said it, I felt, relieved. I said, thank you. And gradually I was able to, of course, through the journey of talking about it, and I felt like almost like a load was lifted off my shoulder. So it was not easy, and it's not easy, and for anyone. And that's why I understand when people don't talk about it, it's not easy. So, and it was hard, but I'm so grateful that I never gave up. I could have stopped myself, but I never gave up. So that moment I'll never forget. I really, really cried, a lot. So, and I was able to pronounce the words I've never thought I would pronounce in my mouth before. So,
Yeah. So did you met someone who had faced a similar, uh, you know, story like yours along the way? When was that? Where did you meet her? Is it in Rwanda, outside of Rwanda, in Kigali, where you were? Just to remind people that you were born from Rubengera in west of Rwanda.
mhm.
So would you like to describe if that happened? Would you like to describe the situation?
Yeah, I remember after I shared my story, that's when I started actually having people sharing their story to me. And I remember the first person I was able to meet in person to have that conversation were the women. I don't know if people know the film The Uncondemned. These women were in the. I'm sure. I don't know if you know the film as well. These women were the first to go to a trial of a former mayor of Tawa. So, and one of those among those women was somebody who's same age as me. So, and she's the one we had a deeper conversation about her own experience. So, and this is someone who her own experience was so beyond my what happened to me. So this is somebody who was raped by multiple people and killers. So, and for her to describe that and finding me around me and have a conversation. She felt like she had someone whose experience as hers, and she felt confident. And these women felt confident around me. Also, I felt confident as well. Many of them were older than me. Those women were older than me. Others, that young woman was same age as me. So, and they were happy and actually they felt I felt relieved. They felt relieved, and and I think that's what's needed to have someone who has similar experience like yours, and to listen to you. So I've also later on met others and also spoke, not necessarily meeting in person, spoke and on the phone and even letters, so messages, and they felt like they needed to share that with me, and they told me for me to share that experience has helped them to share that with me, even though many of them don't want to share in public like I did. But I am encourage them to find the person they trust and other people so that they can start their healing journey. That's what I do, and that's what I encourage also. And another reason why I also share my experience, I want to also tell the people who hear them, if someone comes to you and they share that personal and painful experience, you should give them the time and listen to them. And that's what they need the most. They don't need anything more than that. They need you to listen, not judging them. And most of the time, these women are judged sometimes by the people around them instead of listening to them. So, and that's not what you need. You need someone to listen to you and not judging you, because that's what you need. So, and and for me, that's the reason why also I share that. I also encourage people who have that person in their lives, who know that person has gone through that, just give that person your time if they come to you, instead of judging them. So most of the time, when you are judged this way, it blocks you. It blocks you from even starting your healing journey. So, and I realized usually the stigma is still there. The stigma is still there, and that's the reason why many of them don't share. So.
Yeah, that's a very important to notice. That stigma which is still there.
Mhm.
At the same time, Mohammed Mamdan, for people who will like to read his book, When Victims Become
Mhm.
Secure, when victim becomes killers. He wrote on page 8 that academic writings in particular have highlighted the design from above in a one-sided manner. They hesitate to acknowledge much less explain the participation, even initiatives from below. When political analysis uh, presents the genocide as exclusively a state project and ignores its Barton and popular character, it tends to reduce the violence to a set of meaningless, outbursts, ritualistic, and bizarre, like some ancient primordial twist come out to life. And you see the world at large rant or still learn about genocide against Tutsi
Right.
from the two, the political analysts as well as academic writings.
Right.
And as you can see, none of them are necessarily consider the popular characteristic of a genocide. Yet, in those popular characteristics is where those stories of women who are raped during the genocide reside, because the women, most of these women never even never went to school after the genocide. In this book, Catherine Gilbert talked about silence around of these women, the silence around rape, how raped during the genocide. Don't even talk what happened to them. Or as you also mentioned, it's not easy to tell these kind of stories. So then, don't you think that between the reality, between the academic work, the academic writings, the political analysts, politicians, and these sirens, don't you see that these women are forgotten,
I think for me, when
or
you
their story will never appear as it is, as you are describing it, as one person to the world?
yeah, that's why it's important, whatever any these in academic area or even in politics, they should include. That's why stories are very much necessary to be included. So if you don't have stories, you don't have, you know, you don't have anything to say. So stories are really necessary, because if they are not included, those who have gone through those experiences and they feel forgotten. So that means it's if you're not including as part of course, I understand that they have a certain way they tell, in academic area, they want to tell what happened, however, but it's necessary to have stories. So because for me, I feel if you are someone who's gone through something and then you see no one approaches you to ask you what happened, it's almost like what are they going to say if they're not asking you, because you're the one who has experienced that, who knows exactly what happened. So, and to me, I find it's so important to have stories as part of talking in academic area to tell what happened. So even politician, in politics, it's very necessary. For me, there's no way that these stories are, what happened will be, to the women, especially the silence of these women, of this topic, rape. So there's no way it could be heard without hearing those who have gone through that. So to me, stories are important. So having stories included, there's a way you said it well. I forgot how you say, without stories there is no history. I forgot how you said it. There's a way you say
Without stories, there is no memory.
there is no memory. So for me, without, like, exactly what you said it perfectly well. Without stories, there's no memory. For me, that's why it's important to create free safe space for those who have gone through those experiences, so that you can have that included and tell the real stories of what happened. So to me, that's how I see it. So I'm not a researcher or anything, who is smart than, but when I tell my story, I feel like it's important, it's important to the history, to me. That's what I feel. So it helps, the history to be taught in a way to show what happened. So for me, let's find good ways, and all of us together with those in academic area, to create a safe space for those who have gone through this experience, so that we can share what happened, so that they can feel that they're included, so they are not forgotten. So that's what I feel.
I assume you're talking you people like Catherine Chirba who shared in her book From Surviving to Living Voice. She also talked more about sharing, and you're also encouraging people to share. But these women, they live in solitude. I mean,
Yeah.
they never get that courage of sharing. There is that shame which is still associated to what
Right.
happened to them. What was the benefit of sharing a story and writing a book as a survivor who, I mean, I'm not saying a benefit like
Yeah,
economics.
I
I'm
understand.
saying emotional,
Mhm. Mhm.
relief that like how did you felt even after sharing your story to the world through your book, but also through different conferences you
Mhm.
go through and while you share your story.
Personally, I felt relieved, and I felt like, I began to live. I felt like that's how I felt like. I felt like now I feel like everything, life is worth living for me. So, and that's what I wish for anyone. And for me, the way it happened, you were saying these women, especially if I go back to these women again. So they, some of them are uneducated, right? So sometimes you don't know how to find the proper language to say what happened to you. Even creating free space for anyone to share their stories is to show, empathy, and also uh, find a good way to help that person be able to share without to share in the way they understand, and help them to find the language in a good way. It's a way of like, for me, the reason why also, for me to find the ways to share my stories, because someone helped me to find, to find the language, the proper language, to be able to share what I share about my experience. And that's what everybody else needs to get as well. So, and that's why I felt that, that life is worth living. Now I can begin to live a life without shame. And I feel like now I can, I love myself in a way that I never thought I would love myself, my body, because when you are a woman who has been raped, sometimes you don't even want to pay attention to your body. You don't want to think anything about your body. But now I love my body. So like, I feel like I love my body. I can, like anyone else who has never gone through traumatic experience like me. And sometimes there are things you need to talk about, because when you talk about, that's when you're free. So for me, that opened the door to finding joy within myself that I never thought I was going to find. And many of them live with the pain of not feeling joyful within themselves, and they can't even express that to anyone. But of course, when you find joy within yourself, you appreciate little things in life. For me, uh being able to find someone to give me that space to share with, no, without judgment, that's how I was able to find joy within myself. And I think that's what anyone else, whoever is going to even approach anyone who's gone through that, you learn how to say in a word with empathy and kindness. Find the good way to ask. Some people don't even know how to ask, to even talk to someone who has gone through that. And it's important to also learn how to talk to someone who's gone through that without blocking them. You are trying to open the door, just don't say anything that will block them completely. Just find the proper words, the good way to approach them without, making them feel now blocked completely. So, and for me, that's what I wish, and that's what I think would happen. I think there should be also education around that too. So, how to talk to someone who has gone through rape and sexual assault. And for me, I think what words do you use to talk to that person without hurting them more? So just to help them open the door uh, to sharing what they carry within themselves and be free. So to me, my advice is when you find proper words, find good ways to approach that person, and create a space for that person to share and be free and be able to get to where they love life again, despite all they've been through. So
Yeah, thank you very much, Consolee Nishimwe. We are approaching at the end of our discussion, but I have two questions to ask you. One is about memory of the genocide against Tutsi in Rwanda and the place of sexual assaults in the memory.
mhm.
What do you recommend memory actors to focus on while people are working on doing field research, political analysts, those who manage the issue on the ground or who create those spaces you are mentioning? What what do you think they should, you know, specifically focus on?
um, those who are doing the research, one thing that I encourage them to do is also to like how I wrote my story. Read a book from a survivor like myself. Those who there are many, there are books that are coming up, and listen to stories. Just I think that will also help a lot. So that's what, I don't know if I understood well the question, but that's what I think it would be very helpful. Just listen to survivor story. And I think that will be important for any researcher or anybody who is learning what happened, who's trying to tell the world what happened. Listen to survivors. That's really my advice. And read their books, just and use them, because we write them to be used also as part of education as well. So, and I think that would be one advice that I probably would give to those who are doing research, and encourage, because it will be an encouragement for also survivors who want to write their stories, like myself, to write them. So I think it will be encourage them. It will be an encouragement to them, because there are so many who write their stories, not necessarily like maybe be on the platform where they will keep talking about, like myself, but they will want to write that story so that someone can see what happened. So, and I think um, let's keep encouraging survivors to write their stories, however they write them, but it's very necessary to me. And it will be helpful for those who are doing research. And I think and it will make what happened be known. And for those actually who want to know, it will help them very much to learn what happened. So use our stories.
Okay,
That's
well,
my
okay, yeah, thank you very much. It's very important. Use the
yeah.
story because the story is what memory is. And
Mhm.
what do you think should not be, should not miss? in those stories. Because these are women who will share stories, but at the same time skip that part. So, what do you think should not miss in every story that talks about rape during the genocide against Tutsi?
To me, one of the things that should not be missed is to, even though it's hard to describe, but the cruelty of the way it happened. It should not, don't just describe as if it was just happened just like that. Just explain the cruelty of the way it happened to show exactly what happened, because many of them live with that pain. I think that should not be excluded. Just explain and show the cruelty and the reality, the way it happens. So that's what happens. So it happens. It should be taught exactly the way it happened. To me, I think also that's a good way of helping those who have gone through that to feel like it's not minimized, Yeah, it should be taught to the way exactly it happened. So to me, that's yeah.
Yeah, I know you are someone who likes to, thank you for sharing that. It's very important because the cruelty, dehumanization, I've seen that most survivors want to highlight that in their stories.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm sorry to keep asking you questions, yet I told you that it's only two questions at the end. I'm trying to probe more because
Yeah.
you are saying a very interesting, you are mentioning very interesting things.
Mhm.
Why do you think cruelty and dehumanization that survivors faced during the genocide?
Right.
Why do you think it keeps coming in their story, and what does it mean?
Um, and to me, the reason why it keeps coming in the story, I don't know if I understood well the
Yeah,
question.
yeah. What does it mean describing those stories, those traumatic stories? Because I have an example of many scholars who 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 describe that as
Mhm.
trauma memory, and
Mm.
and 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 that part is qualified already. I mean, it's judged. And you
Mhm.
talked about non-judgmental
Mhm.
behavior of everyone who's in front of survivors listening to their stories.
Mhm.
So what does it mean? I'm trying, I want you maybe, if possible, to use your words and
Mhm.
describe what push people to share stories. I mean, survivors to share their stories. And most of the time they share them, there is this dehumanization part that keep
Mhm.
coming, keeps coming, keeps coming.
Mhm.
And maybe in your own words, what does it mean? That's my question.
To me personally, as someone who also has gone through that, I feel like if I'm not sharing that part the way exactly it happened, my story is not complete. So I feel like even though it's painful, even though it's uncomfortable for some people to hear, I feel like for me, I should not leave anything behind. So to me, I think for everyone who has gone through that, when they hear somebody trying to make it as if, not the whole, truth of what happened, it feels like there's your story is not complete. So for me, I know it's uncomfortable for certain people to hear, the cruelty, the dehumanization, the way women were treated during the genocide against the Tutsi. Some people, it's not easy to hear, but it's reality. So to me, as a person who's gone through that, I feel like it should not be excluded. I should not leave that behind. And as painful as it is, or for me, even for others to hear, to be uncomfortable to hear, I feel like it's necessary to have that in my story. So, or
Yeah.
any other, for other women survivor story. For me, that's why every time I share my story, I always emphasize that there are people who have gone through worse than I went through, and in a very extreme way. So, and it's very much, and it has to be highlighted. It has to be taught exactly the way it happened. So, and for me, I feel like it's for me, it's a form of justice to me somehow. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I've met different people who say that it's a justice.
Yeah.
It's a bringing back the dignity they had
Yeah.
lost during the genocide.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing that. As you close, you are the person who like to talk about hope in every speech you have. You
Mm-hmm.
kind of you even have your mantra, which is
Mm-hmm.
specifically mention hope.
Right.
I would like to merge hope and life. And
Mm-hmm.
as someone who faced, sexual assault during the genocide against Tutsi in Rwanda,
Mm-hmm.
and tell us why do you say that? Why is it your mantra? And why in life hope is important?
For me,
And possibly for these women we are talking
yeah.
about, because then we are crossing, this is something that is going to be central to them, and as an activist you keep sharing your story. What does it mean, as we are crossing, it's about hope and life
Mm-hmm.
that you keep advocating for, that you keep being pushed forward. I would
Right.
like you to take a time and and describe hope and life
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
way.
Yeah. For me, at the end, after one thing that I needed the most is to be happy. After sharing the ordeal of what of what I've been through, and knowing so many, carrying, because I carry many people. I feel like I carry many women within me, because I carry those who are no longer alive, and those who are alive, because I feel like every time when I share my story, I also think of them. So for me, I always want to, when I talk about also hope, I just want them to also, I also feel like I want them to feel the same way I feel. So because that's what I wish for anybody to feel. And despite all the things we've been through, I feel like since you're alive and breathing, I feel like you deserve also to be happy. It's not an easy journey, but I feel like it's for me. I want to encourage anyone to never give up. When you don't give up, that's when you start finding the reason why you're alive, and that you have a purpose to be here on earth. So for me, hope is is a way of reminding you that you are here for a reason. You deserve to have the joy within yourself. You deserve to be happy like anyone else, despite the painful things you've gone through in your life. So to me, hope is my the way I want to look at myself in a positive way too. So, and someone who didn't want me to be happy, wanted to destroy my life, but I want to change that. I want to be able to every day to appreciate life, and every day to see life in a positive way, and also to look at myself in a positive way. So, and for me, it's and I wanted to train my mind. So it's a way of when you train your mind to see yourself in that way, so you are creating something beautiful within yourself. So to me, that's what I wish for anyone, and that's what I'm trying also to um, encourage others to feel, and to help each other. I know it's not easy, and by saying this, it's a way of helping each other. So help each other, and I'm being part of also helping others to feel the same way I feel. And even though it was not an easy journey, but I'm grateful that I'm where I am, and I'm happy, But of course, I get sad when things happen. But the most important thing, I have a positive outlook on life. So.
Oh, thank you very much, Consolee, for good words to finish our, to end our discussion. Do you have something else maybe you feel that you want to share before we close our talk today?
Something I would love to share with the viewers and everyone else who's going to be able to see this. I always say, let's plant seeds of love and seeds of kindness. So, and if you see someone comes to you with a heavy heart, just give them a gift of listening. And listening really changes a lot in someone's life. So, and if you do that, you are serving well, and you are serving someone to become a best version of themselves. And let's do that all together and help someone to heal and to feel good within themselves. So
Yeah, thank you very much, Consolee Nishimwe. Just to remind everyone that Consolee Nishimwe has written a book. Do you want to talk about your book or where people can find it? And of course, if you also provide, signed book in New York where you stay.
thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to thank you so much for giving me this platform to chat with you about this, and it's important. I hope everybody can watch your books and story. It's important to watch what you're doing here. Thank you for including me to be part of this, and I'm truly honored. And for those who want to learn more about my book, it's called Tested to the Limit, a genocide survivor story of pain, resilience, and hope. It's available. And if you want to learn more about me, you go on my website, www.consolee.org, and you can talk to me on you find my social medias, Instagrams and Facebook, and also Twitter, LinkedIn. And you can talk to me, you can invite me. I'll be happy to speak to you, and thank you also for those who have purchased my book and keep sharing, and let's learn. All of us learn, and it's important to learn. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Consolee. Have a very wonderful time in New York. See you next time. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. And for someone who wants a signed copy, I'll definitely do that for you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.